Yeah, hello audience. Welcome you all. So I just want to know this sales talk show is about we interview international CEOs, international sales coaches, global sales leaders, and authors. So today it's my honor to have a guest, Deb Boulanger. And I just want to talk about her, a little introduction, then she will explain in detail. So, she's a CEO of a Great Do Over, founder of Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs, and a host of Life After Corporate podcast. And she helps smart, accomplished women leaders make the leap from corporate to entrepreneurship. Deb has launched dozens of services that generated hundreds of millions in revenue for her clients and launched and grew a single division from zero to $32 million in just 3 months. So we are going to, talk in detail how it's all possible. So she's going to give us a lot of insights. So please be attentive and welcome, Deb. It's my honor to have you here.
Oh, Thilaga, it is my honor to be here.
Okay, so just want to know, can you tell about yourself, just your journey or career journey? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I spent 25 years in the corporate world, and my very first experience in the corporate world was actually in sales. So I started my career as an inside sales representative and then became an account executive and then decided that marketing was more my jam and decided to move over to marketing communications. But after a while, I just realized that I was good at spotting patterns and what were new opportunities in the market that were emerging, and how could we develop new products and services to solve those new and emerging needs. And I fell in love with product development in the services space, and the rest is history. About 10 years ago, I burnt out and wanted to do something new and got my coaching certification and started helping women make the leap from corporate to entrepreneur and launch their service-based businesses.
Okay, I'm very curious to know like how the transition happened for you, especially like from career to business.
Yeah, so it's not easy. So I don't want to give your listeners or viewers here the wrong impression that suddenly you wake up and decide to leave your corporate job behind and miraculously you replace that paycheck. So I think the most important thing for me was realizing that when I started over, and this is so common with people, especially new coaches, that you've got a new credential and you forget all about the decades or the years of professional experience that you have in the corporate world, and you just focus on the new thing. So for me, it was all about the great do-over and helping women reinvent themselves in midlife. And then I looked around as I was in these collaborative circles of other women entrepreneurs and noticed that they were struggling. They were really, really struggling. And in my professional opinion, they had an idea for a business, but they really didn't have a business model that was going to work for them. And
Mm.
when I noticed that, I said, "Oh, wow, I can fix that. I know how to test concepts and be sure that you have demand before you actually build supply." So that's how I kind of pivoted those first couple of years, going from life reinvention coach to blending my corporate experience with my new certification in coaching and making a new offering.
Wow, wow, that's a great journey. It's all about. Yeah, so I'm interested to know what is about a launch lab for women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so the Launch Lab is really a framework. It's a framework within which you can discover the unmet need in your marketplace, right? So, in order to stand out and become known, now we're in this age of what they're calling the Great Resignation. And many women globally are deciding not to go back to the office and business as usual, but instead take control of their time, take control of their impact and the impact they make with their work, just like you are
Yeah.
with women in sales. And they need a way, they need a roadmap. So they're coming to entrepreneurship with great skills, and perhaps those are in sales or marketing or HR or technology, and now wanting to create a business model around that. So the Launch Lab is a framework for testing out your business idea, finding the gap in the marketplace, carving out a unique value proposition so you can stand out and be different than everyone else. So you need to, most people, when they first start out, say, oh, I don't want to limit my opportunity. So I can work with anyone who dot, 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 right? And the truth is, if you're serving everyone, you're serving no one. There's nothing that really differentiates you. So find a narrow focus. You know, people call it a narrow niche. I call it a narrow focus. Find the gap in the marketplace. Find the people who care about that issue, who are having that challenge, and offer a differentiated solution. Don't the temptation is to look around at the competition and see what everyone else is doing, when if you look around and see what everyone else is doing and how they're describing their services and pricing their services, then there's nothing that helps you stand out. And I think
Mm.
the last piece of that, Thilaga, is actually that you need to have a messaging platform that really stands out so that you can price your services at a premium as opposed to making it super affordable. So I do a whole talk on pricing, which is a whole nother discussion, but that's what the Launch Lab is about, how to figure out what that gap is and that narrow lane, and creating a differentiated messaging platform around that so people can discover you.
Yeah, I agree. I think once, if you want to be differentiator in the market, you first should know, what is available, what is there in the market, right?
Exactly. And, you know, women in particular tend to turn to coaching and consulting. There are
Mm-hmm.
other forms of providing a service in the marketplace. And women in particular tend to undervalue themselves. So I think, you know, it's well known that we have a global wage gap with women in the workplace. Well, when I discovered that revenue gap for women entrepreneurs was 260% wider
Oh my God. Okay.
than corporate. Yeah, women on average compared to men are making 30 cents to the dollar in revenue. And I think a part of that is because we weren't taught how to negotiate, how to sell, how to put a value in on ourselves, and we weren't necessarily raised in cultures that valued women as leaders. Women were caretakers.
Yeah.
And so it feels uncomfortable when you make that leap from corporate and you have the safety net of that paycheck to actually putting a number and a value on your services. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges that women face. And I might have gone down a tangent there, but
Yeah. I think they have to really, as you said, they're not confident, right? They do not
yeah,
have confidence to move from the comfort zone to kind of an uncomfort zone, a business.
yeah.
Like, what is that is really necessary to build their confidence, to take that leap?
Yeah,
What?
so every step along this journey is going to test you. So once you make the leap and you've made that brave choice to start your own business, so that's number one. And then as you move outside of your zone of comfort and try new things, it feels really uncomfortable, and so that kicks up all of these thoughts about am I good enough, or I don't have the confidence. So courage comes from just having self-esteem and self-value.
Okay.
Confidence comes from doing it once knowing that you were okay. You didn't die in the process. And in fact, you were probably successful at it or you learned from it. And so confidence comes from doing. And courage comes from being, being in a situation where you can't tolerate the way things are going any longer. So perhaps you're in a difficult work environment, or maybe you have taken time off to raise your family, and now it's time to do something different with your time because the children are in school. So courage is making that very first move because the state of being that you're in is no longer tolerable, and confidence comes from taking risks and allowing yourself to fail if that's what happens, and just learn from it and not make it mean anything about you.
I think you have to prepare your mind to face the failure, to face the challenges, right?
Yeah, if nothing else, you learn from it. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect. And when you come into a situation like this where you don't have a frame of reference, where you don't have experience, then the temptation is, oh, I have to be perfect. I have to get it right. So some of the mistakes that new women entrepreneurs make is they focus on all the trappings of having a business, like, oh, I'll register for my entity, my incorporation, or my LLC, or they'll build a website or hire a branding consultant to have a nice logo because it feels good. It feels like you're making progress, but it's really fake progress because you're avoiding the scary thing of going out there and having conversations with people and selling your services, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the important is instead of just thinking and planning to do, you really have to take actions, right?
Absolutely. I think we learned decades ago in business that the right thing to do is to iterate, to put a hypothesis out there in the marketplace, put out a beta, a prototype, get a minimum viable product out there, test it in your market, learn from your potential customers, refine it, and then build it out over time. You don't have to have everything perfect. So all of these self-sabotage strategies of perfectionism or procrastination or resistance are all different forms of fear that, as you mentioned before, in your comfort zone, keeps you comfortable because you're in what you know, but it's also uncomfortable because you're not growing and you're not fulfilling your true potential of what
Yeah.
you could be doing in your career.
I remember I just recently put one quote that says, if you are in comfort zone, you are not really growing.
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to know, like, as I understand from, if you're in a sales or any executive level, reach women reaching to the leadership role, that itself there is a lot of gap,
Yes.
right? And from leadership role, then to move to entrepreneur, I think the gap is really more, right?
Well, you could look at it that way. I think entrepreneurship closes the gap. I think you could
Okay.
look at it both ways. That, yes, the money gap is wider in entrepreneurship, but the opportunity gap is smaller. So
Oh,
women have, in some ways, entrepreneurship is the great equalizer because
okay.
women have equal opportunity as men to succeed as entrepreneurs. Some of the unique challenges, of course, that we know about is the lack of venture capital for women entrepreneurs. It's harder for women to get investments, and more women than men actually bootstrap their entrepreneur initiatives, at least in the beginning stages. But it really is the great equalizer because you can create a business. I mean, truthfully, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I pinch myself. It's just like I get to create something out of nothing. I mean, the Launch Lab didn't exist before I thought of it. And then going out there and working with a few private clients and seeing, well, where are the consistent patterns? Where does everyone get stuck? What are the things that they need to know? And what are the only things that they need to know, not to make it overwhelming? Because
Mm,
I think the mistake that a lot of new entrepreneurs make is they get all caught up in all of the availability of digital marketing training. So there are hundreds of things you could be doing to market your services. And they get so enamored with the make money quick or have an evergreen offering or create passive income. When in truth, there's nothing passive about generating revenue. Even if you don't have to deliver your service in person, you still put together all of the marketing systems and the technology, and you still have to get out there and be out front as a leader and a spokesperson for your brand. So I think some people sort of drink the Kool-Aid of the promise of making money quickly in entrepreneurship, when in fact, the most important thing is to find the path to the cash that's going to work for you.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's not that when they start any business, it's not that money they really have to focus upon, right? Like how they really add value, how they make the process in place. I think those are all is important.
100%. Finding out where you can add value and why the solutions that exist today are not working. So, it's analogous to being a salesperson, right? When you're in a sales situation and you're dealing with a prospective customer, you're looking for what's not working for them today, whether it's a technology solution or whether you're selling consulting services. You're looking for, well, what is it that would deliver the most value for this person right now and get them from this place of dissatisfaction to the other side of that, of what they really want to achieve either in their life or in their business. So it's just like sales, except in entrepreneurship, you're creating the product that you're selling. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I, yes, 100%. Actually, I remember my mentor used to say, like, if you want to start up a business, it's not that you develop a product and you try to sell. You need to understand the problem, what is required in the market, then you develop a product.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, there's a saying that we have here in the States of, otherwise you're like a hammer looking for a nail. If you have the product, it's just like, okay, where's the problem that I solve, or who's going to buy this hammer, And so looking at the problem and what your ideal clients need is the best place to start.
Yeah. And you just mentioned women are getting stuck, stuck to move forward, to take a certain decisions. What is the major, issues which is making them to stuck to move forward? What do you think about it?
Well, there's a couple of things that women face, and I read a recent McKinsey study about women and burnout, and especially during this past couple of years that we've had, where regardless if both people in the family were working, once schools were closed and there was lockdown, it was the women who were homeschooling the children and taking care of the extra household responsibilities. And so I think that highlighted the fact that of the inequality in the home, and how women carry so much more of that burden, plus an equal share of the burden of the responsibility of being a wage earner in the family. And then the other thing that happens, and this was interesting in the McKinsey study, that the more senior a woman is in the workplace, the more frequent she cites burnout as a reason for leaving her career. So even though we are at a stage where there's a focus on diversity and equity and inclusion in the workplace, the truth is, because I've been at this a longer time than you have, is we've been having this conversation and fighting this battle for a very, very long time, and not much has changed. And so now we are at this opportunity where women in particular, the McKinsey studies cited 1 in 4 women are deciding whether or not they ever want to go back to an office. So this is an opportunity for women to take control of their time, their money, and their impact. and look at developing something that matches their lifestyle and
Mm.
enables them to have that freedom and flexibility to sometimes be in an office, sometimes travel, and sometimes to be at home and work from the comfort of the home office.
Okay, and I want to know, like, is it a good idea to start the business, to make the plan parallelly when you are working, or you need to quit the job and completely? I think most of the women will have such questions, I believe.
Yeah, so it depends on your risk tolerance and your financial backing. So there are three ways you can go. You can do start a side hustle, or while you are in your corporate career, you can start investigating where are the opportunities. If you can carve time out of your day or on your weekend to start having conversations, doing some market research, and putting your business plan together before you make the leap, then that's wonderful. Most women I know who are in the corporate world don't have the luxury of that time. So
Mm.
the second path would be to be sure you have a cushion. So if you are coming to a mutual separation agreement with your company, or you've experienced a redundancy in staff or a layoff, being able to use the package that you exit the company with as a cushion to start your business is a good strategy. Or perhaps you have a generous spouse who's willing to cut you some slack as you figure out this next chapter and support you in starting up your new initiative. The truth is, it will take a good 18 months to 2 years before you replace that corporate salary, depending how big that salary is. So you have to
Mm.
give yourself that time. And then there are still others who just jump all in and just go in with both feet, take the risk, and say, I'm going to make it. And I will self fund myself and maybe dip into my savings. And what I recommend there is you make an agreement with yourself on how much you're willing to invest in your business endeavor before you become profitable.
Yeah. My next question is, like, what is the financial plans they really have to make? I know you have one more your framework called making money model, right?
Yeah, the money making model. So the money making model is, I believe that there can be visibility and predictability even when you are selling services that are not retainer based. And what I mean by that is if you have, and I have a pricing calculator that I'm willing to share with your audience, but it's about understanding what is your revenue goal? What are the products in your portfolio? And even if you're selling services, I believe you package them and you sell them based on a solution basis, which is a product in my mind. So I'm using products as packaged services. And you understand the average value of a client to you. So you know exactly how many clients you need to serve in order to hit that revenue goal. And then as a salesperson, the other thing that women entrepreneurs need to do is get comfortable selling. So the money-making business model is a combination of how are you structuring your value proposition to the market? How are you pricing it? And then how are you actually selling it? So having clarity in how to have a sales conversation if sales wasn't your prior career, what your close ratio is. And when you first get started, you may be having 10 conversations and only closing one or two clients. And
Mm.
so the other opportunity in your business model is to create more sales skills or hire someone who's better at sales. And it becomes predictable so that you have the tools that you need. You know what conversion tools are. So for me, as an example, I have the podcast, which is an awareness tool, but I also create talks and webinars, and I speak from the stage and I speak on podcasts and invite people to take the next step with me. And in those conversations, I know that one out of two or one out of three conversations I have, if it's a good match for an ideal client, they will convert and we will be doing business together. So that's how I create predictability. I create predictability based on the amount of exposure I have and what traditional analytics have shown me is that if I have this much exposure, I will make this much money. And so that's how you have a predictable business model that you can choose to grow your business by 6 figures year after year.
Okay. It's mainly about the reverse calculation. That's what I
Yeah.
understood, right? Like what you want and how you going to achieve it, the step by step process.
It's surprising how many women leave it to mystery.
Yeah, I think the mentor plays a role, right? The
It
mentorship.
does. It does, but it's really no different than having a sales quota. I mean, your revenue goal is really your sales quota. And so there's a lot that translates from a career in sales to a career as CEO of your own business. The good news is that you already have half the skills you need to be successful because you know how to reach a quota and you know how to sell. Then the other side of that is what are you selling and who are you selling it to? And what is your value proposition? So it's a fairly simple formula if you don't get distracted by all the other bright, shiny objects out there.
Okay. And what is your advice to women who wants to start up the business? Like maybe the key skills they have to prepare and which is necessary to success in business.
Yeah, so key skills are pattern recognition, being able to spot what's working. So the first pattern recognition is what is the problem that people are struggling with where there's not a good solution. And then the pattern recognition of what's working. So I think a combination of being able to get outside your comfort zone, take those risks, and then step back and analyze, well, what really worked here? What do I want to rinse and repeat? And what do I want to change the next time I try this kind of strategy? And to really pick a lane. It's not about doing a lot of things. It's about mastery of what is working. And so in the beginning, there's a lot of trial and error. Maybe, you try doing webinars or you try doing a podcast or you try speaking on stages or maybe writing is your thing and see how you attract new clients, what your new clients resonate with. So there's a combination of push and pull, right? So networking is really important, being in the right networks of people who could be good referral partners and then have a messaging platform and be seen and heard just like you are here, having the courage to start a talk show and carve out a brand for yourself and being known for something so that people who are interested in working with you can reach out to you and say, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah, I totally agree. I think unless until you do the trial and error, you will not able to understand who is your target audience and whether they are attracted to whatever you are, the value you're adding it or not. So trial and error is very important. Unless you're thinking like, what is working out, what is not working out, instead of that, if you do the trial and error, you will really know what is working, what is not working, whether you are really creating a target audience, are they reaching out to you. I think that's very important when you start a
Yeah, I think it's
business.
so much more important. And this is, a message to all those people who are using bots on social media to spam people in their message boxes. That just doesn't work or rarely works. And I mean, it must work for some people because otherwise not so many people would be doing it. But the most important thing is that even if you're using those automated tools, that there's something different and compelling about the message that you're sending people and that you're specific in your target audience so that it's relevant to them. I can't tell you how many messages I get in LinkedIn or Facebook that have nothing to do with me or what I'm doing. They have no idea where I am in my business maturity or what I need. And I think that's a real problem. It's a real problem that people just need to be more relevant. Salespeople, entrepreneurs need to be more relevant and create a reason why people would want to connect with you.
Yeah, I agree. And network is net worth, I believe.
That's a wonderful way to look at it. I love that. Network is net worth. I love that.
Yeah. So the more you expand the network, we don't know where, how people will reach out to you if you expand your network, right?
Absolutely. And, after you stick with it, and I think we started the conversation with, being able to stick with it. It's not about, going live on LinkedIn once and then saying, oh, no one viewed it. Or consistency. Consistency is one of the number one traits of success, is that you don't give up after your first shot, that you go out there and you make a go out of it.
Perseverance and consistency. I think these are all the, and believing in yourself, you know, rather just keep thinking what others say if I do this. What if I
Yeah.
think that should not be there when you start up the business, right?
Yeah, no, it's one of the mindset traps. We call it comparisonitis, when you're looking around and it's like envy, jealousy, you're comparing yourself to someone else, and nothing good ever comes out of that, cuz you're either boosting your ego by inflating it like, "Oh, I'm better. I did something better than she did." Or you're coming up short, like, "Oh my god, she had this event and converted 100 people into her program, and here I am struggling with a handful of clients." Nothing good ever comes from comparing yourself to someone else. You need to set your own metrics, your own benchmarks. There's room for everyone. Even though it's a crowded market, there's room for everyone. There's room for everyone who's relevant. And just, a small statistic that my podcast coach told me about is that 90% of all podcasters quit after just a few episodes.
Oh,
So there might be a million podcasts out there, but there's only a small fraction of podcasters who are really consistent in building up their shows.
oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. So, one specific topic I want to bring it here, specifically with you, is like many, homemakers, like housewives. They really want to earn money to become financial independence, right? But they're struggling to to go to the uncomfort zone because their comfort, taking care of the family, children, everything. But even though they do all this, but still somewhere in their mind that they're not earning, they are dependent. That feeling is always there. But what is that you really want to tell such ladies to have that leap?
Yeah, so I have a client who's such an inspiration there. And she had never worked because she had raised her family, and she raised three beautiful children. And at some point in her life, she said, I've done my job and I've raised this beautiful family. Now it's my time. And she had dabbled in insurance and a couple of other areas, but she went and she got her certification as a coach. And she decided she wants to be a spiritual coach and help people connect with the spiritual side of their being. And so that's what she's done. And I had the pleasure of helping her build out her value proposition. And now she's out there and forming those networking relationships and getting known. So even if you have not had a professional career, if you haven't been working in corporate, you can still spot a need in your community or a need in the marketplace and create a solution around that. I heard a story yesterday. I spoke at a conference, and one of the stories another speaker had shared was about a woman in a rural place in the United States who was good at sewing, and she started a business by taking other people's sweaters that they were discarding and giving away, and taking them apart and reconstructing to beautiful designs that she was selling for $300 or more. So it was a great story. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what your current economic circumstance is. There are organizations like Kiva that give microloans to women in developing countries who want to start businesses. So I think more and more there's global support for women and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's just as you said, each one is having a room in this world. And as one of the spiritual guru, you master, he used to say, each is great in their own place.
Mhm.
Each is great. Each is having uniqueness in them. I think we really need to identify what is the uniqueness what we have, and we can really move out of it. We can really grow,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, there is a spiritual path in entrepreneurship. There is the sense of, for some people, it is a real sense of purpose. It
Yes.
feels, it comes to you as a divine assignment, if you will, something that you are meant to do, meant to deliver. And so that's how I feel about my career. I feel that I experienced all that I experienced in my corporate career so that I was well suited to help others who wanted to create more freedom after burnout. And so for most of the clients I work with, there is some purpose that they're meant to fulfill, or they feel that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think once you figure out like what you want to do, if you want to start the business, then I think that intuition, the calling, you really,
Yes.
pay attention to it. Then I think it's something like you realize what is your purpose and why, what impact you want to, make in others' life. I think those journey, as you rightly said, those journey will start when you start this kind of entrepreneurship or mentoring or coaching, right?
That's absolutely right.
Otherwise you will be in certain limitations in life. Okay, my family, whatever I'm doing. But when you go to this journey like entrepreneurship, where you really want to make yourself a self-esteem or self-identity person, as well as you want to, when you satisfied, then only you will be, want to help the community, the
Absolutely.
people.
And so when women are affluent, what do they do with their affluence? Women give back to the communities and causes that they care about. I read something yesterday online somewhere. It was a meme. Nothing bad happens when women are more successful and more affluent. Nothing bad happens. you know.
Wow, that's
So
nice.
yeah, I think, that brings to another mindset point, which is, we need to get beyond the scarcity mindset of there isn't enough or there isn't enough for me. I mean, women, especially women who have children, we'll do anything for our children. We will hire tutors, we will hire coaches, we will ensure that they have the best experiences that they have so that they can grow into successful, productive adults. And why aren't you as valuable as your child? Because when you invest in yourself, you demonstrate that you value yourself, and that makes you a great example, not only for your children, but for other women in your community.
Yeah, that's true. It's not that when you grow up or doing well in your career or entrepreneurship, it's not that your family, one is your family is going to get inspired, your son or your daughter, as well as you are giving an example to other ladies who want to get into entrepreneurship. It's like you are inspiring. It's not that you're just earning money.
That's right. And when you are courageous and when you are confident as a woman, you give other women permission by your example to be confident and courageous in their own lives. So I think it's important. I think it's important that we have conversations like this, Thalaga, that you and I are talking right now and sharing this message with women around the world. that they have the potential to fulfill their wild and crazy ideas for entrepreneurship, and in their bravery others follow.
Yeah, that's true. Either today or tomorrow, who are listening to this talk show, the women, definitely at least one, if they get transformed, I think that's the purpose, right?
That's the purpose.
Yeah. So, what is that? Do you think this pandemic is it creating a lot of women entrepreneurs? I because I heard a lot of women in sales podcast where they say there are many women who lost the job during this pandemic, and they want to get into entrepreneurship. What do you see about it?
It's very true. So, 5 million women lost their jobs in 2020. Last I heard, it's an old statistic. I think it was back in May, 1.8 million still had not yet returned to the workforce. I mean, part of that was just having to take time because their children were at home and there was no one to take care of them. And if their company wasn't something where they could work from home, so think of all the waitresses out there, or the restaurant workers, or hospitality workers. No one was going to restaurants or hotels. And so those were many of the women that were furloughed or lost their jobs. And many of those jobs are slow to recover, or some of those companies may have gone out of business. So their only path to income right now may be to start their own business. So absolutely, that's fuel for this great resignation and the opportunity for a great do-over.
Okay, yeah. And but what is your advice to those women who stuck, they lost the job,
Yeah.
and they're scared, they're afraid to get into entrepreneurship? A piece
Yeah.
of advice.
So work is a fractional so a fractional leader, a fractional employee. So or a freelancer is another way to put it. So if you have skills that other people need, so an example of that is this rise in virtual assistants. So I have a virtual assistant who happens to be a military spouse, and because her husband moved every 2 years because of his service to our country, she couldn't hold down a job. So she started a business as a virtual assistant, selling her time to help other entrepreneurs. And in that, she was able to grow her business, hire other military spouses to grow their business, right? So, and then we have platforms like Fiverr and Upwork where people can sell their skills online and earn a salary. So my graphic designer happens to be based in Estonia. When I first started my company, the gentleman who is running my CRM system was based in India. So there were many opportunities for me to employ people from all over the world who were working as fractional workers or freelancers through those platforms. So that's a really good place for people to investigate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Upwork, Fiverr, many people are utilizing those platforms, and it's a good way to start, freelancing, just to see whether you're skilled at it. It's
Yeah,
working out
and if
for
you
you.
enjoy it, it is lonely, so the other thing I would say is to anyone starting out, find a community, which is why in the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs, we have a built-in community there so that no one takes this journey alone, and you have support of others, but also belong to networks. There are global communities of women leaders and entrepreneurs like Elevate Network. So I am a chapter leader in New York, but we are a global organization of more than 250,000 members worldwide. So there are organizations, there are scholarships to some of these organizations. So finding a community where you can learn from other people, I think, is super important as well if you're considering entrepreneurship as a path.
I totally agree to you. I think being with the community One is it gets you automatically get motivated by looking at people who are already ahead of you, and it gives you confidence. So I think being with the community, and you will also get to know a lot of opportunities which is happening around, right? So
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
and I want to know, like, because since it is a sales talk show, like, how do you think a sales skills is important being a CEO?
I think, sales skills are so important when you're a CEO because you're always selling. You're selling whenever you speak. You're selling the idea of the value proposition of why you created the business. You're selling to people who want to work with you, who would be great employees. And you're selling to your market. If you don't sell, you don't serve, right? So if you're not selling, you're not serving. And if you're not serving, you're not making an impact and you're also not making any money. So I always, there's three things I say to people who don't like to sell: get over it, hire someone else to do it, or go back and get a job. Because you have to be able to sell if you are going to make an income.
Especially for a business, man or woman, I think the sales is blood of a company, right?
Absolutely. Sales is the lifeblood of the company. Without revenue, you don't get to hire people, you don't get to reinvest and the tools and skills that you need. It's not inexpensive to run a business. I mean, you can start on a shoestring, but eventually you need technology platforms, you need people. You can't be the chief financial officer, chief revenue officer, chief product officer, chief administrative officer. It doesn't work that way. In order for you to really grow a business, you have to automate and delegate. And so that's key to your success. And so it's important. It's super important that you have a mentor. We haven't talked about the importance of mentorship, but I have always had a mentor who was at least a few steps ahead of me, who had achieved something that I wanted to learn and I wanted to achieve, and I valued their advice. And I still am mentored in my business. Every single year, I may work with one or two other coaches who support me either spiritually, mentally, or with better sales skills. I have a sales coach because
Okay.
even if you're used to selling in the B2B world, if you're now selling to individuals, it's a whole nother art and science of how you venture into that conversation and how you attract those people into your circle. And with the internet and social media today, it is very, very much a content play. Content is queen. If cash is king, content is queen, right? So you need to be prolific in getting your message out there and being seen and heard. And that's all part of sales. And in order to get there, in order to get beyond your own psychological limitations or skill limitations, you need a mentor. You need a mentor. You need a group of people who are on the path with you, who are inspiring you to excel.
And I've heard one of the article, like majority of a CEO, their experience is majorly from sales. You
I
know.
know, isn't that fascinating? And most of them don't have an Ivy League education. So it's so interesting. And some don't even have a higher education, not even an MBA, just a bachelor's degree from a B-level school. So I think sometimes as women, we set the bar so high and we need to be over-educated or over-credentialed. And if you find yourself chasing for that next certification, that next credential, and you need more initials after your name, realize that that may also be fear. So ask yourself, do I really need this credential in order to be successful and get clients and grow this business? Or is this feeling like, I mentioned it before, fake progress? That I am improving myself and I'm learning new skills and I'm going to be a certified XYZ, when in actuality, it's just a way for you to turn your focus away from sales, away from growing your business, and to something that you may or may not need, depending on your
Mm.
situation.
Okay, agree. And my one topic is women in sales. Like two things I want to discuss here is as a CEO, do you really want to give preference to women, to recruit women for a sales profile? Or why there is a lot of gap? What do you think to fill the gap it is necessary for a women, more and more women to come into
Join
sales?
in sales. There's
Yeah.
actually a client of mine, Heidi Solomon Orlick, who has founded Girls Who Sell. That's girls with a Z who sell, who'd be great for this show. And that's really her expertise. And even when I'll take it from a parent's perspective because I don't have a daughter, I have a son. And when he went to college, I said, there was a former sales manager of mine who was a professor at his school. And I introduced them, I connected them, and I said to him, take the sales and marketing track. If anything else in your life, companies always need people to sell their services. And in the process of learning how to sell, you will learn skills that you will apply throughout your career, even if you never have a job as a sales professional, right? You learn to be a good listener. You'll learn to spot where someone needs help. You'll learn how to create rapport. You learn how to communicate effectively. So there's so many things that you learn in a career in sales. And for me, I didn't come at sales from a business education perspective. I had been certified as a teacher. My training was in education, but sales was a natural for me. And so it was a wonderful way for me to excel in the corporate world. And then when I identified opportunities that I was a little bit more excited about than my sales career, I was able to have those conversations with company leaders and say, hey, I'd like to go on and do this. Do you think that's a good idea? Would you support me in that? So I think women too need to look at their sales careers and either excel up the sales track. Another great person for you to bring on the show is Julie Thomas. She is the CEO of Value Selling, and value selling is a methodology that we used in the corporate world. And it's wonderful to see a CEO of a sales training business that has grown so well. I'll be interviewing her for the Life After Corporate podcast soon, as
Okay.
we're going to have some focus on sales as well. So, yeah, sales is a great career. Great career leads to many places.
Yeah. Actually, in fact, Heidi was there, was my last, guest. So
Oh,
she's
she
already,
was
yeah,
great.
yeah. So
Oh,
she
I'm
has
so
given a lot
glad.
of insights. She had given a lot of insights about why women should get into sales. What is that activity she's doing? Like college girls, she's giving awareness. A lot of things she's doing, and she shared a lot of things with our audience. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and but what do you think, like women facing the challenges to get into sales, what is that stopping them to, to come into sales?
Um, I think lack of role models, not having enough women in senior sales roles, that maybe women don't see it as a viable path.
Mm,
Um, so that might be something that prevents women from joining sales. Recruiting. I mean, really, it's the onus is on the sales recruiters to make sure that we have diverse and inclusive sales forces. I mean,
mm,
I'm sure Heidi shared about why women are sometimes better at selling because
yeah.
they're such great listeners, they're empathetic. Women have great, great sales success. I had many of my colleagues when I worked at Gartner who were women in the sales force who reached great success. But it unfortunately, it's sometimes rare in the corporate world to see a woman in the chief sales officer role or chief revenue officer role. And I think there's an opportunity for companies who are saying they're behind diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to actually demonstrate their DEI commitment by putting more women and people of color in higher level sales roles.
Yeah. And maybe one thing I just look at here is if a woman wants to become an entrepreneur, the business woman, I think sales is a good career to start with, right?
Excellent career to start with. Yes,
Because for a business, as we mentioned, it's a lifeblood. The sales is a lifeblood because that is the one is going to give you a revenue.
absolutely. Sales is the lifeblood of the business. And I also find that my clients who have a background in sales move faster in the
Mm,
business launch process.
mm,
Because, I think because they have that courage that,
mm,
maybe suffering some rejection as a sales leader, sales
yeah,
executive, builds in some resilience, so it's you don't take things so personally, and, you're better equipped to overcome difficulties and jump over hurdles than someone who hasn't had a sales career. So we could probably dissect the skills that women develop in sales and why they're appropriate to entrepreneurship. But those are just a couple that I think are really important, and why I've seen my clients who have sales backgrounds really excel even more quickly than others.
yeah. As you rightly said, they already experienced a lot about the rejections and the failures. They know how to handle the failures, and as well as what I see, they also have this network. Because if they are in sales, they know a lot of people already. So if they
Yes.
get into a business, they, kind of a network they already have to start with, at least the minimal necessary one, right?
Yes, absolutely, 100% that they're better networkers. It's not that all entrepreneurs are born extroverts. I mean, I would consider myself when I was in my sales career, I was very social. It was easy for me to strike up conversation, but in very small groups. So the intimate conversation of a sales conversation was fine for me. Being in front of large groups made me anxious. And
Mm.
so there are things that you have to get over as you're in a sales career. And once you overcome those, because you'll have those same challenges once you start your own business. So it's very important to learn those skills of being able to speak in front of a bigger room, to be able to have a conversation with someone and listen very deeply, become a good mirror back of, did I hear that right? Did I get that right? Is there anything else that you want to add to that? What does the ideal solution look like to you? Just, I think being sincerely curious in conversation, as all salespeople are either natural at or they're taught to do, is a key skill when you become an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're curious or they're forced to to learn to know the things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And my almost last question is about the daily habits. Like, do you follow any daily habits? Because I sometimes believe that the discipline is also playing a bigger role if you want to become success in life.
Yeah, I think discipline is super important. Coffee helps, lots of caffeine.
Okay.
Coffee or tea. No, seriously. Having a daily personal routine is super important. So for me, that is quiet time after, coffee before talkie. Then there's meditation, there's journaling, there's setting intentions, there's planning the week, planning the month, planning the quarter, planning the day, and also blocking time on your calendar. And I think it's super important because we are in this time where we are continually distracted by notifications on our devices and people who want a piece of your time. You have to become very selective of how you spend your time. So for me, I block my calendar. There's certain days where I have conversations with potential clients, certain days where I am producing content, and certain days when I'm serving my existing clients. And it's also important to build leverage into your business model. If you're, if you're selling to individuals and everything you're doing is one-on-one, then you'll rapidly run out of time to work on your business as well as in your business. So you need to have that time to work on your business.
So it's about blocking calendar for your own self, right? It's also important what you just said. Like even for a content creating, just you alone doing certain tasks, you are blocking a calendar. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Um, I think that's a key thing here, because we block calendar only for others, one on one, or some meetings. But I think this is also very important to block your calendar for your own self, giving a
Absolutely.
me time, or creating a kind of a post or a content or book writing.
Yes, absolutely. Writing a book.
Hmm. Okay, so what is your favorite books or podcast? I'm sure your podcast is really doing well, Life After Corporate. So if anyone wants to, watch your podcast, I think if they search Life After Corporate, they will be able to get it right.
Yes, on all podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcast, Life After Corporate, I get great feedback. People enjoy the show, so I'm so grateful. And then, if your listeners would like to model out their revenue goals and see what it would be like to replace their corporate salary, I have the Experts Pricing Calculator, and I'll be happy to send you that link, and we can put it in your show notes.
100% sure. Yeah, they will. The audience will love it. So we are end of this show now. Like, thanks a lot, Deb. You really added a lot of insights. I'm sure at least one woman decided to get into business, and if she's excel, that will be a great for this show. And I just thank the audience who are watching here. It's a very good show today. We learned a lot about how to start the business from your corporate, and from taking a leap to taking going from uncomfort to comfort, comfort to uncomfort zone. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Thilaga. It's been so nice to be with you here today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
See you. Bye.